So today I'm going to be talking about compound angle formulas. A compound angle is created by adding or subtracting two or more angles. The problem is, when finding, for example, the sine of a plus b, we come to a standstill. Sine a plus b does not equal sine a plus sine b, so a set of formulas can be used to solve questions involving compound angles. You cannot distribute sine or cosine, and this is because they are not values that can be distributed. These are the four formulas that we will be using this year. A common mistake is forgetting that the cosine formulas have opposite operation signs. Cos A plus b means you're going to have to subtract, and cos A minus b means that there is addition. So be careful. You are not required to know how the formulas were derived, and you don't have to memorize them. You will be expected to be able to recognize when they can be used to solve. There are a few different types of questions where you can use compound angle formulas, so we're going to go through a couple examples now. Let's start with sine 75 degrees. What we're going to do here is try to break this bigger angle into smaller angles like the ones we find on sine and cosine graphs or in special triangles. Sine 75 is the same as sine of 30 plus 45. This looks like the left side of our first compound angle formula, so let's expand it. We're going to get sine 30 degrees times cos 45 degrees plus sine 45 degrees times cos 30 degrees. Now, if we look at our special triangles, we know all of the values because of our trig ratios, so let's plug them in. We're going to get 1 over 2 times 1 over root 2 plus 1 over root 2 times root 3 over 2. We multiply out these fractions and add them together to give us 1 plus root 3 over 2 root 2, which is our final answer. If the question asks to leave answers exact, don't do decimals, just leave it the way it is. Now let's try going backwards with another question. Sine pi over 3 times cos pi over 6 minus sine pi over 6 times cos pi over 3. This looks like the right side of our second compound angle formula, so let's switch it over to look like the left. We're going to get sine pi over 3 minus pi over 6. Don't forget about BEDMAS, it's your friend, so let's do what's inside of the brackets. We make these fractions have a common denominator and subtract them to get one fraction. Switching it into degree mode is going to give us sine 30 degrees. This looks simpler, doesn't it? So using our special triangles, we can see that the sine of 30 degrees is 1 over 2, which is our final answer. Now let's go through a more complicated question. Don't forget, you got this. So angle M is in quadrant 2, and the secant of M is negative root 169 over root 144. Angle G is in quadrant 4, and the secant of G is 5 over 3. So what is the value of cos M plus G? So here we've been given two angles and the quadrants they're found in. Now we want to make these given values a little easier to deal with. Look at the first value given to us. Secant M equals root 169 over negative root 144. That's not very pretty, so let's see what we can do. Secant of M equals 13 over negative 12, and cos M equals negative 12 over 13. For our other given value, the secant of G equals 5 over 3, so if we flip that, cos G equals 3 over 5. The next thing to do is to draw the triangles on an axis. We can use Pythagorean's theorem shown above to solve for the sides we haven't been given. Don't forget the negatives, they're important. Now that our triangles have been drawn, let's see what the question's asking us to find. Cosine of M plus G. Now finally, the moment I know you've all been waiting for, we get to use a compound angle formula. Let's use number 4. It's being shown on screen now. Now I've taken the liberty of putting in our variables, m and g, instead of the normal ones, a and b, to make it easier. From our special triangles, we can get our values. Cosine m is negative 12 over 13. So I'm going to write that down. Cos g is 3 over 5. Minus 5 over 13 is our value for sine m, and the sine of g is negative 4 over 5. Pay attention to the negatives. Now we'll multiply each term together. Now it's easy to make an error with the negatives, so if you're paying attention, the negatives are going to cancel out. Now we're going to add the two fractions together that already have a common denominator. Negative 36 plus 20 equals negative 16, so our answer is negative 16 over 65. Not a very pretty number, but hey, life doesn't always work out perfectly. Just to summarize what we've covered, these are the compound angle formulas. They're used in questions with compound angles, the sum or difference of two or more angles. You cannot distribute sine or cosine. Your answer may not be pretty. Don't freak out. Believe in yourself. That's all, folks.